Greetings and welcome to episode 159 of the Words About Gamescast, the weekly video game podcast for Words About Games. I'm your host, Amy Alexander. I'm joined this week, not by Keith. Keith abandoned me. But it's alright, because I've got an upgrade. I've got Patrick. Patrick, how are you?
I'm not getting involved in your rankings. I don't want to cause any trouble for anyone. It's
alright, Keith won't watch this, I guarantee it. How you doing? It's been a while. I think it was the beginning of the year. It was the last time we had you.
Yeah,
on.
Probably.
How's it going?
I get by. My life's really not very exciting.
How are games? How are video games treating you?
Honestly, I've not been playing as much as I would like because nothing's really gripped me lately. They just dropped the Castlevania collection on Switch, and Dead Cells went on sale, so that's what I'm going to be doing.
Nice. Well, Dead Cells is awesome. So is Castlevania. But yeah, Dead Cells. I love that game. Anyway,
I know you do.
I'm gonna do this intro. That I had to write this intro down since the last time you were here, because I kept forgetting to say things that I was supposed to say. And Keith made me write it down. So this is the Words About Gamescast. Every week we discuss 5 topics centered around what's been going on in gaming, the games industry, and games culture before we leave you with a list of games that are coming out this week. This week we discuss a new partnership, that's lights in my eye, between Microsoft and Sony, Riot Games refusing to allow employees to opt out of forced arbitration, Cyberpunk 2077 management pledging that the game's development will be, quote, more humane, the reported rocky development of 2020's Call of Duty, and how Nostalgia Vision has clouded people's perceptions of the recent WoW Classic demo. As always, if you want to skip around and only see certain things, or you just want to watch the entire podcast backwards, there's timestamps in the video below. Below the video. I stayed up to watch Game of Thrones last night, and it's catching up with me.
Don't talk about.
No Thrones discussion.
I haven't seen it yet.
I promised. Shall we just dive right into it?
Sure.
Okay. We've got the first story.
Do the thing.
Let's do the thing, and then let's talk about the thing.
Do the thing.
And then we do the next thing. And then we do the thing. All the things. Sorry, I don't know where that dance came from. The first story is Sony and Microsoft team up to develop game and content streaming services. This is from Andy Chalk over at PC Gamer, who writes, Sony and Microsoft have announced plans to form a strategic partnership through which they will collaborate on the development of cloud-based technology to support their game and streaming services. Quote, Sony is a creative entertainment company with a solid foundation of technology. We collaborate closely with a multitude of content creators to capture the imagination of people around the world, and through our cutting-edge technology, we provide the tools to bring their dreams and vision to reality, Sony President and CEO Kenichiro Yoshida said in a statement. For many years, Microsoft has been a key business partner for us, though of course the two companies have also been competing in some areas. It's an understatement. I believe that our joint development of future cloud solutions will contribute greatly to the advancement of interactive content, end quote. The partnership at this point is strictly a memorandum of understanding, which the company said will enable them to explore the potential use of Microsoft's Azure data centers to support Sony's online services, as well as joint development of new hardware and AI technology. More long-term, the announcement suggests a mix of Sony's hardware, cutting-edge image sensors and semiconductors, and Microsoft's Azure AI and cloud technology. Quote, the parties will explore incorporation of Microsoft's advanced AI platform and tools in Sony consumer products to provide highly intuitive and user-friendly AI experiences. End quote. Is any of the rest of this relevant? More about a partnership, predictions of the final console generation. Microsoft and Sony teamed up. That's a thing that happened. What were your initial thoughts on this?
Well, my first thought, and this is probably me putting on my tinfoil hat because it's probably been in the workings for a lot longer than this, but my first thought was Google Stadia.
Yeah, right. Like,
Certainly, probably the announcement probably is a reaction to that. But the truth is, this has probably been going on for a while at a corporate level. And in fairness, makes a lot of sense because outside of the game sphere, they're not really competing that much.
yeah, no, not really. Like, PlayStation versus Xbox, like, is a competition, but even then, like, it's not like it was back in the days. Sega does what Nintendo don't. Like, it's never really been that level of
Yeah, well,
competition.
the thing is, games is not a core business to either of them. Microsoft is an operating system, is a software company principally, and Sony makes TVs. So I think this is probably like a high level corporate decision rather than going to do with games. It's probably got more than anything to do, I would have thought, with video streaming, access to TV. It's more sensible than both sort of future proofing themselves. I mean, if you want to be really cynical, you could view it as them both panicking, saying, "Oh shit, neither of us is really built for the future and the way it's going." So I don't know how much impact this will necessarily have on games. It just it has the feel of Square Enix going back to Nintendo and then releasing Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. It's like, okay,
This happened.
it's like, okay, I'm glad that you've patched things up, but
It's nice that they're able to work together.
yeah,
And you're
yeah,
probably right about Stadia. Like, we've had the rumors about Stadia for a long time. Like, there was Project Yeti, that was well into last year. So if it's been going on for a while, it could have still been a reaction to that in part. But I get it's like there was a knee-jerk reaction on the internet with regards to this news of like what it could mean, like about them collaborating.
yeah.
Um,
It doesn't mean Halo on PlayStation
yeah,
5.
there'll be no Game Pass on PlayStation. There'll be no PlayStation, Xbox, X Station. Like
Yeah,
nothing like
I'd
that
like
is
to.
really happening.
I'd like to think that at a minimum it would mean that Sony would start playing ball with everyone in terms of online multiplayer, but
I mean, baby steps, right? Let's build the advanced AI first, and then once it takes over the company.
yes, let's build Skynet.
Mhm.
Then
It's funny. Last week we had an Ultron reference with AI, and now we've had a Skynet reference. The future is coming.
I do love how the press release basically could be read as Microsoft say, "Yeah, we're shit at hardware," and they all collapse, and Sony say, "Yeah, our software doesn't work properly; it needs patching all the time."
Like, there's just two guys from the two guys in the article, Yoshida and Nadelia, and they were both in a bar just drinking. God damn it, we can't get our online infrastructure working properly. Like, it keeps going down, and then the other guy's like, Dad, like, well, our online infrastructure is great, but we can't build hardware for shit. And then like they both just sort of, wait a minute.
You've got software in my hardware. No, you've got hardware in my software. It's two great tastes that work great together.
Yeah, it could be like the beginning of a like traditional love story, like, can I buy you another drink? In the hotel
No,
bar.
I think it's more straightforward. I think it's two companies sort of recognizing where the future is going and sort of pooling resources, which it makes a lot of sense.
It plays to each company's strengths, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like PS.
I think Sony needs to do whatever they can to sort of stay relevant. I'm thinking like Sony corporate, like outside the PlayStation, in general, in a world in which every device is going to be a smart TV.
That's a smart
and Microsoft don't want to lose their lunch to Google, and if they can get someone else to produce the hardware for them, then more power to them.
Yeah, and even if it's just consultations and them sort of sharing ideas and information, and even if it's just that, it's a net benefit for the future anyway. Like for games, because Sony's going to take out like all of the knowledge base and make PSN better next time. And Microsoft might be able to build better hardware like next time. And then
we'd like to think that's what would happen.
We like to dream. We like to dream big. On the words of our Gamescast, whether any of that actually happens or not. Yeah. I mean,
like if it was like a corporate merger, and all of a sudden, there was now this entity that was both Microsoft and Sony, I'd be more worried.
Yeah, I think that would be worse.
But that's but that's absolutely not what is happening.
No.
I don't think it's necessarily a reaction to Stadia, though the announcement might be, but I think it's more correlation rather than causation. I think it's more sort of where the industry is heading towards, cloud computing.
Yeah, cloud and online infrastructures. I mean, we just had the Xbox One all digital release, the console without the disc.
On top of which, I suppose the elephant of the room is they've both got streaming services for games, need infrastructure for that, but also worth bearing in mind, Sony's also a content producer in that they own Columbia.
Yeah, that's true. We got movies, so they'll be streaming video. Even Xbox has got a video streaming service where you can rent movies.
Like, if I could predict anything out of this, it's like they might produce their own version of like Netflix or Disney Plus, and we'll have yet another streaming service we need to subscribe to.
Another one, man. I've already got 2 I've subscribed to, and then Disney Plus is coming, and then I think Warner Brothers were talking about it, and if like PlayStation have one with like all the Sony studios, fucking hell, man. Like, you can't be shit. Like, I don't have that much money a month to spend on 10 different streaming services just to watch everything. Besides, whenever Sony tries to do something TV or movie related with games, it tends to, how do I put this together clearly, be really shit.
Powers.
Yeah. Or Powers, where it was like, how long did it take for that to even be available in this country? It took a long time. PlayStation's a global brand, but we're going to make this TV show and we're only going to make it available in North America. Like, good thinking. 80 million PlayStations sold. 100 million PlayStations sold. I don't think some of them might have not been sold in America. Should we move on to the next one?
Sure.
Cool. This is a weird one for you to jump in on because I think we've been talking about this on the podcast non-stop for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I don't know how caught up you actually are in this, but I'll read the one that we've got, the latest development, which is Riot Games will not allow employees to opt out of arbitration despite major walkouts. So this is from Austin Goslin over at Polygon, who wrote, Riot Games employees took part in a major walkout on May 6th to protest several of the company's employment policies, including the use of forced arbitration in response to employee lawsuits. Riot has since released a statement announcing that it will not be changing its arbitration policy during litigation. Quote, ultimately, given the complexities of ongoing litigation, we will not change our employees' agreements while in active litigation. We know not everyone agrees with this decision, but we also know everyone does want Riot to continue to improve. We remain committed to having a firm answer around extending an opt-out to all rioters when active litigation concludes, end quote. The company's statement also addresses some of the other issues that were brought up by employees during the walkout, including diversity and inclusion training at the company. On this topic, the statement promises change, or, at a minimum, mutual understanding. In an effort to reach that mutual understanding, Riot announced via the statement the creation of a new program called the D&I Rioters Council. This group will be led by Riot's Chief Diversity Officer Angela Roseborough and incorporate members of the Riot team from all around the company in order to take a proactive approach to share perspectives, create change, and identify barriers and opportunities to move us forward in D&I and culture. According to the company's statement, it has also invited a, quote, diverse group of employees to review its code of conduct in an attempt to revise it and address concerns. Much of this current concern over the working conditions, diversity, and arbitration issues was brought to public attention after a Kotaku report in August 2018 alleged a culture of sexism. God, was it only in August? It feels like we've been on this treadmill for a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, how much do you know about the Riot situation?
I wouldn't say I've been paying attention to it so much as I've been peripherally aware of it. But, I should be paying more attention to the broader trend of unionization in games, and the sort of stand for workers' rights, which is what this is part of the bigger trend of. And I know certainly, my Twitter stream is full of, crazy lefties like myself, demanding that the game industry in various sectors unionize. But I haven't really been paying attention to the specifics of the Riot case so much, and I don't really claim to be an expert on the legalese involved.
We've been covering it since August, and I don't think we know much about it, to be honest.
No.
Although
so it sounds mostly like capitalism gonna capitalist.
Sort of. There's a lot of bad, really. I mean, it's the capitalism stuff.
Well, it's also the sort of tech bro startup. We create. Two guys created this game, and now it's this massive $1 billion product, and we're not really equipped to sort of handle that.
Yeah.
Because we went into STEM, not the humanities, and we don't really have HR trained professionals at the top.
Yeah.
And also
much.
we've bought into the neoliberal capitalist nightmare dystopia where the poor are sent to the wall.
I forget the rampant sexist toxic culture of the studio.
Yeah.
That was what kicked it all off, and then there was a whole thing. I mean, if it was possible to do a keyword search of this podcast over like 2019 for union or unionize are probably the two top words in the word cloud of this podcast. It's been an ongoing topic. And this does play into that a bit while having its own unique flavor, because for all the stories that we've done over the course of the year about all the different studios and Crunch and Anthem and BioWare Magic and all that crap, Riot has that added thing of, and also people will go around and sexually harass people.
Yeah.
Yay. We'll talk more about Crunch in a bit.
This is why you need to be part of a union, Cap.
Yeah, I mean, unionize. Keith would say it if he was here. You guys need to unionize. The forced arbitration thing. So just to recap it for you, if you don't know the specifics, which are ingrained in my brain at this point. Riot is being sued by 5 former and current employees on the basis of gender discrimination, which all stems from the stuff that came out back in August. And Riot was forcing those employees into arbitration, which is part of their contract, as opposed to going to trial, which is what the walkout was about, to end forced arbitration, among other things. They had a megaphone, they did their thing.
Basically, you have to talk to your manager before you talk to your lawyer.
You have to talk to your manager, and then that's it. That's how it gets settled. Yeah. I can't say I'm surprised by the response from Riot Games, but at the same time, I'm still managed to be I had no expectations, yet you still disappointed me. That kind of thing. Some of the we're gonna make the diversity and inclusion Riot as council. And I just have
which will be presumably appointed by and directly responsible to management.
Yeah, who is part So then there are certain sectors of management who are part of the problem, which will probably exacerbate things when we get the next update of this story. They'll do something else. There'll probably be another walkout or something like that to try and get this forced arbitration issue changed, because for all the stuff that Riot said back in sort of August, September time, we're gonna change. We've got this. I think they've been a manifesto of how they were going to be better, and I've said it a bunch of times about a bunch of different companies. It's talk is cheap. I'll sit back and see what you do over the next 6 to 12 months, and I'm sitting back and I'm watching what they're doing, and I'm we're now, how many months has it been since August? 8 months? I don't know. Maths is hard.
You made me do maths now. June, July, August. 9 months.
It's been 9 months since all the stuff came out and they said, we're going to change. And we're 9 months down the road, they're still facing issues, and their response is, we're going to change. And I'm I've heard this before. And I've seen no concrete proof that you changed the first time.
Their response is, corporate bullshit speak is, we're not going to change, but hear what we're saying and we're going to do better.
Yeah.
Please stop walking out and causing trouble. It's about optics. Riot looking bad rather than actually addressing the concerns of the employees.
Oh, 100%. They still... like it was the weirdest thing when they did the walkout, and they were the statement from the management was like, "Oh well, we anyone who feels that they need to walk out, we will totally support you, and you will have no backlash or repercussions." And it's like that's just you trying not to look shitter than you
Yeah,
already
it's
do.
like I, I I don't want to bring up South Park necessarily positive, but I think of the episode about the Catholic Church where they say, "How can we stop telling people about about priests abusing them?" It's like the you're more worried about people finding out about you being shitty.
Then if you weren't shitty, no one would be able to find anything out. It's crazy how that works. Like, I think in terms of the industry itself, I think we're fortunate enough to live in this sort of this climate now that we live in, where like people who work and who suffer through crunch or gender discrimination, for like the two main examples at the moment, have like places they can go and people they can talk to, usually anonymously, to sort of say, by the way, this is what's going on at Riot Games, at Telltale Games, at BioWare, at all the other companies.
Yeah, well, it's happened with both of BioWare's.
It's happening so much. It's hard to keep up, and that's good because, like, hopefully, because it's when I say that, it's like it's happening so much recently. It's always been happening, but like now we're in a position where we can find out about it, and us finding out about it helps the people who are inside those systems because these companies don't want to look bad, and like thankfully there's like a vocal section of people who are paying attention to this stuff who aren't being quiet about it, which will hopefully force some measure of change, slow, agonizing change.
I mean, that's the thing is, the thing that worries me is that it's not just the games industry. This is part of a larger trend in Western society, and especially North American society, which has sort of got to address this idea that neoliberal cap is good and unions are bad, and somehow a communist plot to take over the country. You know, that there's a huge culture that sort of has that. And a lot of this I think is right-wing bollocks that's been going on in the past 3 years, and I'm for that as far as it goes. But a massive cultural shift, like society-wide. My worry is that that's what it's going to take, and hopefully, if it starts out in the tech industry, which is quite forward-thinking and important, that will lead to better results.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, yeah, I mean,
I think it's important to remember that's what they're facing. They're facing decades of sort of post-Thatcherite indoctrination that this is the way society is good.
Sorry, I didn't catch that last part. The post-Thatcherite.
Because sort of cope with like this post-Thatcherite indoctrination. This is not only the way society is, but it's the way society should
be. Yeah.
Which of course is a massive scam perpetuated by a class to protect profits. Sorry if I sound like some sort of crazy socialist, but for a start I am. But
I mean, you are like there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a wider, like, it's a huge wider like societal problem, which we're viewing through the lens of this one sort of industry, I guess. That's just, I mean, hey, I could start a podcast and talk about how rage against the how shitty everything is, like, not just the games industry, but yeah, you're right. Like, I mean, if this is what it takes to affect any sort of meaningful change, even at Riot, and then maybe it spreads from there, like, but change is always slow, like, which.
Yeah. It's nice to see internet outrage being used for good rather than to change the ending of Game of Thrones.
Yes. Like, if only we could get 1 million people to sign a petition.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw that. That was a
it's like if
thing.
going to sign a petition to change the ending of Star Wars or Game of Thrones. Like, maybe sign it for something.
Maybe you could make some sort of system where it's like, to sign this petition, you have to sign one of these petitions. Like, it's like a barrier. You have to get through one thing to get to the next thing. I mean, that I'm having flashbacks to like the end of Mass Effect 3 with that. When I saw that petition start popping up on my timeline.
Yeah. The end. Yeah, the ending's so bad that it elected Trump.
Yeah. And there's an election next year.
Yeah.
So, it's good timing. Thanks, Game of Thrones. You couldn't have just not been a bit crap.
Well, fairness, I think we're all woke to it now. In fairness, I think everyone with a brain anyway just saw that and rolled their eye.
Fingers crossed.
My worry is that one day one of these petitions is going to work, and then the lesson that's going to be learned, and it's the lesson that sort of came out of Mass Effect and the firing of James Gunn. Sometimes when you whine loud enough, you get results, and that just encourages the shittiest people on the internet to keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, once you do it once you fire James Gunn, like the genie's out of the bottle, and then it's just like, well, who else can we get fired? Like, great, this is good. This is productive. Let's do this.
Like as soon as Disney did that, they basically declared open season on anyone who was critical of
anything.
Well, the Trump administration for a start, but yeah.
I think that's where it started, right? Anyway, video games. Let's move
Sorry,
on.
I'm making this very political, but that's how it's going to be. So.
Look, Patrick, could you just keep your politics out of my podcast, please?
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, so I forgot this.
Sorry.
Video games, there's no politics in video games.
There's no politics in video games, right? Like, Final Fantasy VII was not a political game.
No. Just because the heroes were eco-terrorists looking to destroy capitalism doesn't mean it was a political
game. There was no politics. It was all about how cool Sephiroth looked when the fire was going and he walked through the fire. That's what it was all about. Even though Sephiroth is...
It's about who you dated on Golden Sword.
Exactly. It's a dating game, right? Or I've just been playing it wrong this entire time. Let's move on, because I can't keep a straight face while I'm mocking internet shitloads. Number 3. We've got a pair of stories coming up from Jason Schreier, who's doing, the Lord's work over at Kotaku as usual. And the first one is, as Cyberpunk 2077 development intensifies, CD Projekt Red pledges to be more humane to its workers. Strap in, everybody, because this is something. This is an edited version of Jason's article. If you want to read the full thing, head over to Kotaku. It's really worth reading. Maybe don't go in the comments section. Footage of the upcoming role-playing game Cyberpunk 2077 has blown away fans so far, but coupled with that hype is a burning question. Are workers at CD Projekt Red, the Polish studio behind the game, ruining their lives to make it? The developer, best known for the Witcher series, has cultivated a reputation for crunch, asking its employees to work nights and weekends for weeks or months at a time. But studio management now tells Kotaku they want to improve their work-life balance, even if they continue to feel that crunch is a necessity. Quote, "We're known, let me be humble for a moment here, we are known for treating gamers with respect," said Marcin Iwinski, the company's co-founder, in an interview with Kotaku this week. "This is what we've been working hard toward, and I actually would like for us to also be known for treating developers with respect." End quote. One of the ways the company plans to do that, Iwinski said, is through a non-obligatory crunch policy that isn't brand new, but that the Warsaw-based CD Projekt Red plans to push harder. He wants to make it clear to Cyberpunk 2077's developers that even when the studio asks them to work on nights and weekends, it's not mandatory. Quote, "We've been working toward it for some time already. We've been communicating clearly to people that, of course, there are certain moments where we need to work harder. Like, I think the E3 demo is a pretty good example. But we want to be more humane and treat people with respect. If they need to take time off, they can take time off. Nobody will be frowned upon if this will be requested." End quote. Of course, anyone who's worked anywhere knows that a request from the boss doesn't need to be mandatory for it to be something you have to do. When probed, Uinski wouldn't promise to limit crunch to certain periods or offer specific numbers, other than to say that he hoped making this public statement would help CD Projekt Red employees feel more comfortable telling their managers when they don't want to put in extra hours. Quote, I think this is the commitment we're ready to make today, and we'll be listening to people. We definitely open a lot of lines of dialogue here, and we'd like to start with that. Here's where it gets fun. Perhaps they also wanted to preempt a potential story. After the publication of Kotaku's Anthem investigation last month, which documented a turbulent development marked by mismanagement, crunch, and anxiety, 4 former CD Projekt Red employees reached out to tell me that they had seen similar problems in Warsaw. Quote, I felt that there are hundreds of parallels that could be drawn between the story of the rocky development of Anthem and the story of the rocky and even more rocky to become development of Cyberpunk 2077, said one former CDPR employee in an email. At times I felt I could just replace the studio name and the game title, and it would all look so similar, almost identical. I'm just going to skip over that about the rumours of financial trouble at CD Projekt Red. Paragraph, I'm going to skip off that because I don't think it's really relevant to what we'll probably be talking about. Here we go. This is an issue that CD Projekt Red is acknowledging, although at the same time studio management continues to argue that crunch is a necessary part of making games like The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077 as good as possible. Quote, from a wider perspective, we need to remember that the whole production takes, say, 4 years, sometimes 5 years, and most of the time, like 3 years, there's no crunch, said Badowski. There's no additional hours, sometimes before E3 we crunch, but most of the time the production is super normal. We are talking about the very last round towards the release, and it's always difficult to manage, but you know that there are some complications. It's really difficult not to use all the forces at the very end, plus there's another factor. Sometimes we have unique specialties, very unique people, and you can't clone them. We need them to work on highly specific things, and we need to ask them to spend more time on something highly specific, because there's no other way to do it. It's mostly R&D, or very special requests, like tools, end quote. You mentioned before, like, thankfully the internet outrage being poured into something positive, and it's become this thing all of a sudden with this story where in the first paragraph Jason writes like the question like Cyberpunk 2077 looks great, but people are asking like, are the devs okay? like like it's become a thing where CD Projekt Red are trying to get out ahead of being one of these stories that we've seen in the past few months, which is so. I mean, this is something new to me. Like, they've said mostly all the wrong things, but
like preemptively announced that they're not exploiting their work.
They're preemptively announcing that they're going to try better, but that crunch is still mandatory and that we're still going to do it.
I would like to preemptively announce that I'm absolutely not going to be committing crimes later. You know, if banks happen to get robbed, it's got nothing to do with me.
If banks happen to get robbed and I happen to be nearby, I didn't do it. What do you make of all of that?
Well, I think the best comment I saw on Twitter was like, if only genre speculation that was dedicated to dealing with, you know, corporate excess and mistreatment of work. Yeah, the staggering irony of a company making a game called Cyberpunk being concerned about workers' rights, looking to pretend about workers' rights is.
Yeah, well, they're looking to pretend to care.
Yes. They want to be seen to pretend to care.
The thing is, like, no, they want to be seen as if they care, but they're looking like they're pretending that they care. Like, that's how it's come off to me as in reading the article, but the bit that I read in the full thing.
Profoundly disingenuous. It's a bit like, you know, about 6 months ago in Red Dead Redemption, that thing about people working for 100 hours, and the management came out and said, no, we did it. You know, the houses said we work for 100 hours, but we don't expect anyone else to come in on the weekends. It's like, well, if your manager's coming in a week, the expectation is that everyone else is going to come in if for no reason to be seen.
Yeah, like you come in when the boss comes in, I would imagine, like in that sort of environment.
Yeah.
Like
it's completely disingenuous to say, oh, people
don't have to. It's not
80 hours a week. It's like, well, no, of course you don't have to. On how doing it, you have a duty of care to stop it.
Yeah. Well, no, because you don't want to stop it, right? Because you're getting all this labor to like make your game, and then it flips around during the end of production, or they even talk about it. Like the math in that point, at that point, threw me for a loop as well. Where it's like a game might take 4 or 5 years to develop, but where everything's normal for 3 years, apart from at E3.
So what you're basically admitting to a failed management there. So he said, yeah, we've basically at the end of our product, we don't give people enough time or resources, and therefore they have to work harder.
Hold on a second. Let me just. Oh, that's made me full screen. I don't want to. Anyway, we were talking about CD Projekt Red being assholes.
Inside baseball. Well, no, we're not saying that they're assholes. They're saying that they have preemptively tried to avoid looking like assholes.
By looking like assholes. Like, the problem is, like, half of this is probably really good. Like, if half of this had been their PR statement, then everyone would have been like, okay, cool. Like, I would have taken the same approach I just mentioned with Riot, where it's like, okay, you've said the right things, but I'll see how you act. But then they go on to say things like, crunch, still need to do crunch.
Yeah, well, not to nail CD Projekt Red to the wall too much, but if they had come out and said, yeah, totally supports the rights of transgendered people before they had the shitty, stupid beats, it would have been easier to believe that they would be genuine. But the thing is, they've got form of dealing with PR disasters, corporate bullshit.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's always like, this is them, I guess, trying to do it in a different way, where it's like they are trying to get out ahead of it. But the fact that they're trying to get out ahead of it makes me think that it's going to happen.
That they're concerned that they're going to get tired of it, which is interesting. The comment about crunch being necessary reminds me of BioWare and their BioWare Magic bullshit. Yeah, if you're doing that, it's a failure of management, especially considering that Cyberpunk 2020 doesn't have a release. So how can you say we're going to crunch at the end of the project when you don't know when the project's going to end?
I mean, we're 3 weeks away from E3 at this point. So, yeah. I mean, everybody is basically assuming it's coming out in 2020, like, at this point, which seems, I want to say, reasonable for, like, trends of the video game industry and how these things work with like announcements and hype and all this other stuff. So like, what I think, like, reading between the lines, I'll put my tinfoil hat on now. What I think is about to happen as far as CD Projekt Red goes, given what Iwinski said, given what the anonymous guy said about basically being able to take the Anthem article from last month and replace the word Anthem with Cyberpunk. Is I feel like they're going to try and hit this release date sometime in 2020, and I don't think the game's anywhere close to being able to be ready in 2020 without a severe amount of work.
Which I mean, I think the general feeling I get is that people are kind of fundamentally okay with things being done when they're done, rather than being nailed to release.
Yeah, like I'm not that bothered. Like 10, 15 years ago, when a game got delayed, it was quite, like, a game you were looking forward to got delayed. It was quite, I don't know, difficult. It might not be the right word, but it was quite difficult because, like I say, Twilight Princess, because that's like, say, like a games get delayed like 6-12 months, then you wait in 6-12 months for a game you're really looking forward to, and there weren't that many great games around 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
Right, we weren't inundated with content the way we are now, where it's like, if something's delayed, it's like, well, there's 16 other games I need to play, half of which are in the same genre as the thing I'm looking for.
Absolutely. Like, we've got a massive list of games that are coming out just in the next 7 days, like Monday and Sunday. And, like, if something gets delayed, cool. Like,
yeah.
The next game I'm looking forward to playing is Observation. Like, if that got suddenly delayed at the last minute to like next month, I'd be like, cool, I'll just keep playing Rage 2. Or like Beat Saber's coming out. Or any number of other games that are coming out.
You might even be grateful. It's like, finally, I've got time to play Rage 2.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I've got time to play things.
And you're not going to feel like forced to get through Rage 2 so you can get on to...
Yeah, no, I mean, I always find a way with a game that I'm enjoying. It's weird. Like I'm actually enjoying Rage 2, so I've been finding more time to play it than I otherwise might have.
Yeah. I also suspect it ties into how games have gotten so much more expensive to develop. Like again, 15 years ago, stuff wasn't being made in HD, and I think that's led to such an exponential growth in cost and manpower to put stuff out. And I still, a decade later, I still feel like developers and publishers are kind of struggling because I do think fundamentally these are management mistakes. And I also think it's management, not necessarily the spine or the conscience to say, well, actually, here's what we need to do to get this on track in a way that isn't going to harm people's lives.
Yeah.
And it's not good for the industry long term because, if people for 18 months or whatever, what happens is they leave the industry and a loss of institution, which is what's happened with BioWare. Like anyone who was, pretty much everyone who worked on Mass Effect 2 is gone.
Yeah. Like the superstar developers have all gone, but like the people, the veterans who worked on, say, Dragon Age Inquisition, like I'm trying to recall Jason's article about Dragon Age, have all gone. Yeah. And Dragon Age 4 is happening without basically anyone who made Dragon Age, like what it was. And that's a loss for BioWare. Like maybe
it's not a loss for BioWare. It's a loss for the industry because they haven't left BioWare. They've gone away from Games Complete or whatever.
Yeah, and they've done some fantastic work. And management, it's a management problem. And
yeah, I
don't know. Like we need.
If you're having to overwork your staff because you didn't plan correctly, then you failed.
Yeah. Yeah, like as the Anthem story went, like Mark Derrick came in and just started making decisions, and it's like, well, that's awesome that someone finally came in and started actually just making decisions, so that Anthem got to a place where miraculously shipped in February. Like, but where was the Mark Darrow of Anthem 5 years before that when the game was in pre-production and needed to be planned out properly? Like. There's an abundance of amazing talent at the sort of grassroots levels, like coders, artists, programmers, and everything else. But it seems like at a management level, people don't know how the management of development studios, AAA development studios, who do have these huge sprawling games that are it's a miracle that any of them are ever finished. But at the same time, they need to we've been doing this for long enough that they need to be able to make a plan and say it's going to take us 4 years to make Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
And this is how we're going to do it. And maybe the date slips by 6 or 12 months, but we're not going to crunch 100 hours a week, 7 days a week for 18 months to make sure it gets out of the door.
Yeah. And also more to the point, we're not going to go do 100 hours a week because one, that's probably, I don't think that's healthy. I think that's a sign of psychopathy, to be honest, if you're doing that.
Yeah.
I think it's cheap to say, oh, well, I don't expect anyone else to do it. It's like, well, that's, it's like when a couple of months ago when Sakurai admitted that he used to come into work with a drip plugged into his arm, things like that, and everyone just thought, dude, you're taking this too seriously. There's enough stuff in Smash Brothers already. We'd be okay if you took a day off.
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, it's not worth it.
It's not.
That's
it's not worth your health. It's not worth your
mental well-being, your physical health, your relationships, your friendships, your family, the amount of developers who miss things with their kids growing up, and it's you only gonna get that
Yeah.
once. Like, don't miss it just because Anthem needs to come out or Cyberpunk needs to
Yeah.
come out, because it's not
Like
fucking worth it.
the story should be really, it should be CD Projekt management coming out saying we hate crunch and we're not going to do it if we can possibly avoid it, and that's not what it is.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Unfortunately.
If they'd come out and said we're not going to do crunch this time, like, we've got a reputation from the Witcher series.
That would have been dishonest if they did, in fairness.
Like, because I can understand. There's one part of that I can understand, and that is we work a bit harder when E3 is coming up. Yeah, sure, because it's the biggest show of the year.
Because that's set in stone every year, and you have no control over that.
E3 is not going to get delayed, but you can delay Cyberpunk if you need to. Like, and
it doesn't have to come out Christmas 2020.
Yeah, it can come out in 2021. Believe me, there's going to be enough games coming out in 2020 that we'll be able to play to keep us going. And then when Cyberpunk comes out, it'll probably be amazing, and everybody will trip over themselves to talk about how fantastic it is.
Well, I will, certainly.
I've just managed to gear myself back up to wanting to talk about Cyberpunk again in time for E3 after all the shenanigans with CD Projekt Red last year. So I'm back. I'm getting back on the hype train slowly but surely.
Choo choo.
Choo choo. Speaking of games that are coming out in 2020, let's talk about a game that's coming out in 2020. Because there's E3 is set in stone. So is the fact that there's always going to be a new Call of Duty. This is the second story from Jason Schreier, and it is titled, this is Sources, Call of Duty 2020 in Upheaval as Treyarch takes over, plans Black Ops 5. This is from Jason Schreier over at Kotaku. Can I just point out before I read the article, it's amazing to me that we don't know what Call of Duty is going to be this year, but we're already talking about the one that's coming out next year. Let's talk about getting ahead of ourselves. Jason Schreier, who writes, next year's Call of Duty has gone through a major upheaval as publisher Activision informed developers this week that studios Raven and Sledgehammer, which had until now led the project, will no longer be in charge. Instead, according to 3 people familiar with goings-on at the companies, Treyarch will lead development on a new Black Ops for 2020. It's a significant shift for Activision's massive first-person shooter franchise, which is one of the most lucrative video game series on the planet. Every fall for the past 15 years, fucking hell, Activision has put out a new Call of Duty game supported by a stable of different developers who rotated duties as required. Since 2012, Activision has followed a 3-year cycle for its 3 lead studios, Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Sledgehammer. For 2020, Activision had originally switched things up, assigning the Wisconsin-based support studio Raven to take a leadership role alongside Sledgehammer to make Call of Duty games set during the Cold War, likely involving Vietnam, which would have been awesome. As of very recently, that's changed. Now Treyarch, based in Santa Monica, California, is in charge of leading Call of Duty Black Ops 5 for 2020. What this means is that rather than getting 3 years to make their next game after Black Ops 4, Treyarch will have just 2. Actually, they'll have 1.5. That's how you do maths. Some at the company say they're not pleased about that and are already bracing for brutal overtime hours like they faced last year on Black Ops 4. Others have told Kotaku they're excited about the change as they have a solid game plan that isn't likely to change drastically, unlike their last 2 projects. And then there's a brackets. What's the word for brackets? Parenthesis in the story, which is ominous, which says we'll have more to share about Treyarch and the development of Black Ops 4 in the coming weeks. So I look forward to hearing about that on the podcast. One primary reason behind this Call of Duty upheaval, according to 2 people familiar with happenings at Activision, is the tension between Sledgehammer and Raven, whose staff are said to have argued frequently during the past year of development on Call of Duty 2020. 2 people familiar with the project described it as a mess. Now both studios will serve as support for Treyarch as the publisher prepares to release Black Ops 5. This is a disaster waiting to happen, isn't it?
Drama!
I read the article over at Kotaku and they're talking about it like, oh, well, they're going to make a Call of Duty game in 2 years. No. If this only happened last week, it's May. And they're going to release it in November 2020. They've got 1.5 years to make an entirely new Black Ops. it's not going to be entirely new for starters. It's going to be very much based on Black Ops as it is now because
Well, they've already got Battle Royale mode down, so that's something.
I mean, Battle Royale, zombies, multiplayer. It's not going to be much different. I wouldn't have thought. And we just spent ages talking about crunch.
Yeah, see above.
I mean, these guys are going to start.
Hey, remember when Nintendo delayed Metroid and brought in a new studio and apologized for it and said, yeah, it's...
Sorry, like, yeah. Like, they apologized and they were like, yeah, like, we got to do what we got to do. And everybody was like, you got to do what you got to do.
Sure. That's fine. Here's a mainline Pokemon game, Link's Awakening.
Hold on, wait. Yeah, it's like, but I'm still getting Link to the Past. Link's Awakening? Link's Awakening. I'm still getting Link's Awakening, Cadence of Hyrule, Animal Crossing, and Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll be okay. I think I'll be fine. And Super Mario Maker 2, you say? Yeah, I'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah. And Fire Emblem.
How can I forget about Fire Emblem? I'm really looking forward to that.
I think their 2019 is going to be fine with Metroid.
I think that's
Activision, on the other hand, is like, what do they have now that isn't Call of Duty or Destiny?
They don't have Destiny.
Yeah.
Bungie.
All right. Yeah, of course. Sorry.
Bungie went independent and took Destiny with them. They have Crash Team Racing, which will make a bit of money, I would have thought. But this is the thing, because it was about a month, 2 months ago, where they were talking about their record-setting revenues, and then they laid off 800 people, and then they were like, "But we're refocusing their business so that we can make awesome games to make more money."
Put all our eggs in more smaller baskets.
And you just feel like reading that statement now, there's somewhere like where this reality is a TV show. Like, it just goes, meanwhile, at Activision HQ, and you've just got Raven and Sledgehammer just fighting each other. No, I think it should be set in Vietnam. Well, no, I think it should be set in... Like, oh, God. Can we just agree on something, please? And then, like, Trey comes strutting in.
It's fine, I'll do it.
Picks up the Infinity Gauntlet. I'll do it myself. Oh, man. Game development is...
Yeah. Because they can't delay Call of Duty.
No,
they can and should, but they can't, because this is the hole they have dug for themselves.
Pretty much. Like, they've now narrowed down their development slate so much that they're essentially reliant on 2 games to keep operating. And that is whatever remaster that they're making that comes out in the summer. Crash Bandicoot, Crash Team Racing, Spyro the Dragon, and Call of Duty. They don't have anything else. They published Sekiro, and I'm starting to think the only reason they published Sekiro in the first place was because they needed money. Like, they needed income before the end of the financial year. Like, because it did seem
look up diminishing returns, and there'll be a picture of Bobby Kotick.
Yeah, like the business. I mean, we've been talking about the business models of the games industry over the past few months because it's come up a lot, and it seems like it's unsustainable.
Well, yeah, of course it's not. This is. I mean, this is why you get issues like crunch and unionization coming up. Like, this is late stage capitalism. This is, the human element reject nonsense because it isn't sustainable.
Yeah, and then they haven't got to more and more absurd lengths to like make it continue to be sustainable. Like Call of Duty, back when I used to play it religiously, felt like a game that was made as a game to be a competitive multiplayer game. I'm talking like back in Modern Warfare days where you got map packs and that was it. And then you fast forward to Call of Duty 2019, as if they're fucking sports franchises. You fast forward to like Call of Duty 2018, which Black Ops 4, that game. I was watching someone make a video about it. That game has every single monetization option that you have available as a game. It has all of them. It's like the Infinity Gauntlet.
Including paying for it.
Yeah, you pay up front, $60 full price. It's got multiple season passes, loot boxes, microtransactions. And it's just like... But you think, like, because as everything narrows down, unless people even buy the game, like, to begin with, and, like, less people spend less money on it, you've got to start squeezing those people who...
And this is with the single-player mode.
Yeah, there was no single-player mode last year. Because they didn't have time to finish it.
Which is probably for the best, in fact. But
I like the single-player modes in Call of Duty. Like, the stories, the campaigns. Because I like the gameplay.
No, I'm not saying it bad. I'm saying it makes kind of sense from a business development focus perspective to focus on
the moneymaker. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I mean, I bought Black Ops 4.
But it's also a case of they're charging the same amount as they were last year for something with a single player mode in addition to all the monetization options you've got. And a battle royale mode we can get for free and run on your phone with Fortnite.
That's true. I mean, there are differences, but if you're looking for a battle royale itch to scratch, because I've played a lot of battle royales because it's the new big thing, and if you were looking for an itch to scratch that Blackout could scratch. Apex Legends does exactly the same. They're very different games, but Apex Legends feels it's that fast, fluid, fast-paced, chaotic battle royale that PUBG isn't. And Fortnite's a weird one because you have to build shit, and no thanks. Although I might download it just to see if I can do the John Wick stuff, because that's crossover happening at the moment. But I mean, Black Ops 5 is not going to have a campaign, right? Like, they had 3 years. They had 3 years to make Black Ops 4. They've got half that to make like Black Ops 5. That's not going to have a campaign either. Like, I think a Vietnam game would have been really cool. Shucks.
Something is going to have to give there, and it's either it will get delayed, no it won't, or it will not be. Or it will have a massive toll in human suffering.
Yeah. We'll be talking about that when Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, from the sounds of it, Call of Duty Black Ops 4 had a massive toll of human suffering. From the sounds of it, we're going to find out in the coming weeks, which... I guess...
I mean, I'd like to know exactly when they were told that it had to have a battle royale.
It wasn't, if I remember correctly.
Was
that
the start of development?
No, it wasn't at the start of development that it was going to have a battle royale mode. It couldn't have been.
It was 3 years, so it started development in 2015. So no, it definitely didn't.
Definitely not. Battle royale wasn't a thing in 2015.
PUBG hadn't.
It was before PUBG was a. It was when PUBG was trending, if I remember rightly, because I've read an article about this at some point. It was when PUBG was trending upwards. It wasn't necessarily when it was at its biggest, but it was when it was starting to trend upwards, when people started taking notice of PUBG. So around about March, April of 2017, maybe. Probably sounds about right, because that's when I started noticed it, and I think that was when Giant Bomb did a video on it, and that was when people started to see it as a thing. But look forward to reading about the crunch of Black Ops 5. Jesus Christ, man! Like, Activision can only dig their way out of this hole by doing something like unprecedented for them. They need to develop some games. Like, they need to actually make some fucking games. They've got like 20-something studios making Call of Duty games. Like, for all the talk of the 3 Call of Duty studios, like Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Sledgehammer, there's like 20 studios that make Call of Duty. Some of those studios need to start making some games. Because they need to, like, and like, I know Activision is the devil, but like, just to give them some advice, like, they need to actually build a solid foundation on more than just one thing. Otherwise, it's like a tower and it's just going to go and fall. Like trying to build a tower out of dominoes. Yeah. That's the most
Release
we've ever talked about.
a toy plastic peripheral for Call of
No.
Go back to the glory days.
Oh god, no! Please no. I did buy one of those, the one with the night vision goggles. Because it had fucking night. Like, do you want to buy this game? Yeah, I mean I'm buying the game anyway. But do you want to buy it with night vision goggles? Fucking hell yeah! I want to buy it with night vision goggles. Like, I want to own a pair of fully functional night vision goggles. Fuck yeah! So I think that's one of only like 3 times I've bought special editions of a game. The other one was Batman Arkham Knight. That was a mistake.
Yeah,
I got a cool Batman statue. Can't see it, but it's over there.
because you couldn't possibly get a Batman statue.
Look, right.
You know,
Look, right. Arkham Asylum was amazing. Arkham City was amazing. I had no reason to think that Arkham Knight would be anything less than amazing.
Arkham Knight's not terrible.
No, it's not. It's just not. It's not great.
No, it's not.
And that sucks, especially in like when you stack it up next
It has-
to it.
It's had its moments. It's just that most of the moments didn't involve the Bat.
Let's move on. We've got our final thingy. Which is this cracked me up so much reading the forum posts about this. Some of World of Warcraft Classic's demo bugs were not bugs at all. This is from Vicky Blake over at Eurogamer. He writes, Blizzard has confirmed that some of the issues reported by players during the World of Warcraft Classic demo were not in fact bugs, but are instead intentional mechanics that faithfully mimic how the game used to be 15 years ago. Quote, Thank you to everyone who gave us so much feedback to work with, especially the community members who compiled lists of issues that people found with the demo. We've looked at everything that was reported, and we wanted to share a few anecdotes with you so you can see how we're tackling these issues. Players reported that the Warlock demon summoning was broken. Lots of players said that you shouldn't lose your current demon until the new one appears. We double-checked, and in the original 1.12 WoW, we double-checked in the original 1.12 WoW, and there, as soon as you started summoning a new demon, your existing demon disappeared. So the demo actually matched how the game played originally. There are a few other reports, such as rare mobs do way less damage, and kobolds at Jangalore Mine run faster than walking speed when running away, where we were able to confirm that the gameplay was the same in the demo as the original 1.12 WoW. They had to release, so that they released a bug list, like a bug fix list, but they actually had to release not a bug list. Not a bug. These aren't bugs. This is how the game played 15 years ago. This is what you wanted. Like, as someone who did play WoW obsessively when it came in the beta, when it came out, like, and then stopped because I didn't like where it was going with the expansions. Like, I wouldn't know. Like, there's been 15 years of quality of, if nothing else, of quality of life improvements. Because that game was a pain in the arse to actually play, like 15 years ago. Like, some of the shit that you had to put up with, because that was just, and it was a cutting edge, like groundbreaking MMO, but at the same time, like, nostalgia, right? Like, I have very fond memories of WoW Classic, WoW Vanilla, like the original World of Warcraft. But I imagine playing it would be a bit fucking, ooh, like nowadays. I just love the fact that they had, like, people were complaining about features, but for the first time, it's not a feature, it's not a bug, it's a feature, is actually accurate.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a feature. Like, this is how the game worked. And the fact that they're just sitting here going, this is how it worked. No, we went back and played the game. This is exactly how it worked.
I have fond memories of downloading pornography on dial-up. You know,
Yeah, I have fond memories.
it's like, yeah, but
Yeah.
you don't want to go back.
I have fond memories of having to buy porno magazines. Like, yeah, but now we can stream it. Like, come on.
It's like, okay, but you can't go back to it now.
Like,
It's
yeah, it's a great
okay.
idea.
I mean, in fact, full confession, I've never played any MMO like Warcraft. I'm not the world's biggest Blizzard fan. I was at a party for BlizzCon last year where they announced Diablo Immortal, and I thought people were being just a little bit overblown. So I don't really understand who WoW Classic is for, but that might well be because, classic video game experiences I want to go back to, or readily available the Switch or whatever.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's what you want.
It's what you wanted.
You wanted to have a favoration of this edition of World of Warcraft. It wasn't very, certainly not by modern standards. So I don't understand the mentality.
I mean, it's an excellent game, 100%. But it also, it's like when people, it's like going back to playing Mario 64.
It's like going and playing Final Fantasy VII and not the version that was released in HD.
Yeah, like Mario 64 is a seminal game. It was a groundbreaking game. It was probably one of the best 3D platformers ever released. But it was also one of the first. And if you try to go back and play that game, the first thing you'll realize is, oh shit, yeah, the N64 controller only had one analog stick, not two.
Yeah. On the other hand, this is sort of my Nintendo fanboy just bristling, I suppose. If you go back to any 3D platformer of that era, they're not going.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's Mario 64.
But but I single Mario 64 out because, as far as I'm concerned, it is one of the best games ever made. But at the same time, it's like in terms of how I regard Mario games, I regard Mario 64 higher than Mario Odyssey. But if I was picking a game to play, I would pick Odyssey because.
Yeah. Well, what's the point? If you were to recommend playing a Mario game, you would point to Odyssey.
Yeah.
Before Mario 64.
Yeah, there's
like you point to 3D World and Galaxy.
Yeah, you might be able to do. I mean, I don't know Galaxy with the Wiimotes and the pointing and
yeah.
But I mean, the point is, games move on, game genres move on, and I just found this really funny that people started reporting bugs that weren't bugs, and it's like you forgot about how awkward World of Warcraft is. Nostalgia is quite dangerous when in this regard. But yeah, that's all I have to say on that. I didn't really have anything profound to add to that other than
well, nostalgia is dangerous. Yes, I mean not to get political, but there's a whole bunch of people who want to take it back to the 1950s and don't remember what that was like. Yeah. It's like, I get it. I want to go back. I want to go back to the 1990s, but I'm a white, straight, heterosexual, man. So I was okay then.
Yeah. I want to go back to the 90s. More or less news story articles about me, but there were more about other people.
Yeah.
So that's
it's all about how Phantom Menace was going to be great.
I do wish we could live in a pre-Phantom Menace world sometimes.
Yeah.
Because the hype that was
It's 20 years old this week.
It sure is.
And we're all old.
20 years since my dreams were crushed by a talking fish man who went a lot.
My dreams weren't crushed because I left out saying, no, it was good, damn it, I love it.
I don't even think I went through that stage of trying to convince myself I liked it.
Oh, I did for years.
I hate that. I mean, I hate when I do that. When I'm I look at something that's obviously bad, and I'm like, but I liked it, and then it's a few years later, you just go,
it's okay. You're allowed to like what you like.
I'm fine liking stuff that people don't like. I do it all the time, but it's when I'm deluding myself.
Liking things that are bad.
Yeah. When I know I don't like it, but I'm invested so much that I'm like, no, it's fine. Batman v Superman, I did spend a good few weeks being it was fine.
No, I was laughing for most of that.
Because I wanted it to be good. So I was like, it was fine. And then I was like, it wasn't fine. It wasn't. And that's a shame. But let's move on. There's a lot of games out this week, so I'm going to read a big list of games.
Releases.
There's a lot of games out tomorrow. So May 21st, we have coming out Atelier Lulua, the Scion of Ireland for PC, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. Everybody's Golf VR. Sorry?
I wonder what that would be about.
It's actually a long one. I actually played one of those games a couple of years ago. They come out like every year. They're like the Call of Duty of the JRPG genre.
Excuse me.
Bless you. We've got Everybody's Golf VR coming out on PlayStation VR. We have 3 Resident Evil games coming out on Switch. Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil HD Remaster, and Resident Evil 4. Also, still on May 21st, we've got Observation coming on PC and PS4. Slay the Spire is coming out on PS4. American Fugitive is coming out on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Team Sonic Racing is coming out on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Dauntless is coming out on PS4 and Xbox One. And Beat Saber is just coming out of early access on PC. That's all just one day. So on May 23rd, we've got Total War 3 Kingdoms on PC and Pathologic 2 on PC. And then on May 24th, we've got Dollhouse on PC and PS4. And Sword Art Online Hollow Realization Deluxe Edition is coming out on Switch. Lots of volume this week of games that are coming out. And only like 10% of them are Resident Evil games. I'm really looking forward to Observation. It looks so cool. Like, I'm gonna stream it on Wednesday. I've already bought my copy because of that insane Epic Games sale. Like, they knocked £10 off the price of any game over $13.99, including the ones that aren't out yet. I was like, click. Of course, they didn't tell any of the developers that they were doing that, so some of them were a bit annoyed. But that's really neither here nor there. Parry, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Pleasure to have you. Have some hearts. I hope to see you again very soon because E3 is coming up, and I need your Nintendo insights for E3.
I have no idea what Nintendo's going to do with E3.
I mean, they were talking about they're focusing only on games that are coming out in 2019, and then I was thinking about what's probably coming out in 2019. I was thinking that's still going to be one hell of a show.
Emblem's in July, but they've already kind of covered most of that. Animal Crossing, I suppose.
Animal Crossing and Link's Awakening.
I think Pokemon, but they'll probably just let the Pokemon probably have.
Well,
I don't really think Link's Awakening needs much, in fairness. It's a 20-year-old gameplay.
They will though, because it generates hype. Like, everybody already knows what it is, but everybody's hyped for it. So the more time they give it, the more hype they'll generate. But Pokemon will be the headliner. Anyway,
I don't know. I don't know if if Nintendo's going to cover it direct or to do their own. Yeah,
they'll do more directs like closer at the time. But I mean, even when Smash Brothers was coming out last year, they did. It was more. It was like half the direct at E3 last year with Smash Brothers.
I suppose there's Ultimate.
Alright, anyway, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
We did it. Let's eject. Say bye, Parry.
Bye bye.